Today I'm going to show you how to turn these normal looking water guns into realistic looking sci-fi blasters. Let's get making. After getting some idea of what you want the blasters to look like, I'd recommend taking them apart for easier painting and sanding. Only the slide can be taken apart on my water guns, so I'll end up having to use masking tape on some parts while painting. Next, you should use some 240 grit sandpaper just to roughen up the smooth plastic so the paint will stick. To ensure paint does not gum up the bottom of the slides, I applied some masking tape to them. My idea of these blasters is they're used by some sort of space mercenary, kind of like a Star-Lord type character, so I'm going to make them a little bit colorful. The body of the blasters will be painted black and silver, regular gun colors, but the slide's going to be a metallic red. I then sprayed some flat red paint onto the slides to prime them for the metallic paint. The metallic red I have is a little too pink, so here I'm darkening it with the red and silver paint. Once I was happy with the color, I brushed it on. I'm not going for full coverage with this paint because I want the blasters to look used and worn. I then hit the slides with a semi-gloss clear coat to finish them up. Now onto the main body of the blaster. I painted the entire thing black and then hit it with matte clear coat. After masking off the handle, I lightly sprayed the rest of the blaster with a silver spray paint. This will give the blaster a worn metal look without having to do a black wash. With most of the painting done, I reassembled the blasters. Now these look pretty good and you could stop here, but I want to make mine look a little bit more sci-fi. The major problem with the blasters as they are now is there are screw holes all over the blasters, which I forgot to cover up earlier. In order to fill the holes in, I'm going to use a mixture of UV resin and hot glue. For some of the holes I'm going to 3D print some fake screws for detail. Once the holes were filled, I then sanded them down. Once the grip was repainted, I then moved on to making the blaster look a little bit more sci-fi. One of the ways I'm going to accomplish this is by adding 2 muzzles to each blaster. I have these PVC hose connector things, which I'm going to use as the muzzle. I only have 2 of them, so I'm going to need a 3D model and print 2 more. Ones I have also have paint all over them from a failed prop, which I'm going to need to remove. But let's start with 3D modeling. With the new muzzles now modeled and printed, I move on to removing the paint from the PVC ones. In order to remove the paint, I'm using a mixture of isopropyl alcohol and water, then sanding the paint off. Once most of the paint was off, I primed both muzzles. The 3D printed muzzles I primed with automotive filler primer to help remove some of the layer lines. PVC muzzles were primed with a regular black primer. Once the primer was dry, I then sprayed them with a silver spray paint. I want the muzzles to look burnt and worn. To do this, I'm going to mask off all but the top of them, dust them with black, and then apply a blue to purple color shift paint. Muzzles done, I move on to the ammo, which will connect to the ammo hopper here, and these are going to be the ammo. One thing I love about prop making is turning everyday household objects into props. Maybe use a belt as a leather wrap, or a broomstick as a wizard staff. Both of those are examples of how I've used ordinary household objects, but big budget movies do the same thing. In Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, both a razor and a cheap lacrosse scoop are used as props. With the sanding complete, it's now time to paint the ammo. I'm using the same color scheme as the main body of the blaster, a black base and then a light dusting of silver spray paint. Next, I dry brush on some silver on the top of the ammo hopper. After I matte finished to the top of the ammo hopper, I glued them to the side of the slides. Here's how the reloading works for this blaster. I also modeled and printed off these pieces to go inside of the ammo. To help give the outside of the ammo a little bit more personality, I also printed off these skull and crossbone pieces, which I painted black and blue. The skull and crossbones are going to go on the side of the ammo. And with that final touch, the blasters are done. Thanks for making it this far into the video. I'm trying to get a new prop build out every Monday, so if this is content you enjoy, please consider subscribing.